Good morning. I want to go through the answers to the Show What You Know questions from last week. So hopefully this works. All right, so for the first, so it says for each graph, identify the key features. So I've brought them up here on my screen so I can go through them with you. So coordinates of the vertex. So remember that the vertex is going to be that point right in the center of the parabola. So what are the coordinates of this vertex? On the x, it is -3, and on the y, it's -4. So this should be -3, -4. The equation of the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry is just the point on the x that runs right through the center of the parabola. So remember, you can draw a dotted line through the axis of symmetry, which is what I'm doing right now. So you're cutting your parabola right in half like a mirror. So where is this line running? It's running through the x axis at -3. So the equation of the axis of symmetry is x equals -3. Remember that your y-intercepts are going to be the points where your parabola crosses the y-axis. So this line right here is the y-axis, right? It runs up and down. Where is this parabola crossing the y-axis? Right here at +4. So the y-intercept is 4. We can write the coordinates. So we can put 0. Oh no, my computer's lagging. 0 and 4. Because the coordinates of that point would be 0 on the x and 4 on the y. The maximum or minimum value. So remember that if this hits a low point, we have a minimum value. If it goes up like a mountain, it has a maximum value. So this has a minimum value. So minimum. And what is that minimum value? What is the lowest point that this reaches? -4. Right? The x-intercepts. So where does this parabola cross the x-axis? There's 2 points. One of them is right here, and one of them is right here. Okay, so -5 and -1. So the x-intercepts, I can just write -5. Oh boy, this is really slow. And -1. So that was the first one. We have a maximum opening, right? Because it's going in the opposite direction. So for this one, coordinates of the vertex. So remember, the vertex is going to be this point right in the center of the parabola, right up here. So the coordinates of the vertex. Now this is going up by, our graph is going up by 2. So if this is landing right in the center of the line, my vertex is going to be on my x, it's 1. Now initially it looks like it would be 1.5, but because this graph is going up by 2's, if we're in the center of this, it's actually 1. That's a mistake that I made too the first time that I did this one. So just be careful of looking at the coordinates, or looking at the units of measure on your coordinate plane, because it does make a difference when you are determining the coordinates if it's going up by something that's more than 1. All right, so the other coordinate, so where is it on the y-axis? Well, it's in between 8 and 10, right? So that would be 9, since these are going up by 2. So the vertex is at 1 and 9. The equation of the axis of symmetry. Remember, that's going to be that line that runs right through the center of the parabola. This is going really slow, so it's difficult. So we do this line to show our axis of symmetry. But you've probably figured out at this point that if we're looking for the equation of the axis of symmetry, whatever your x coordinate of your vertex was, that's where the axis of symmetry is. So in order to write this one, remember we write our axis of symmetry as x equals. So if it is 1, we write x. Oh boy, come on. It's very slow. Equals 1. There we go. The y-intercept, that's going to be where this crosses the y-axis. I can see that it's crossing right here at positive 8. So the y-intercept is technically at, well, that's why. Okay. That's why it was going so slow. It wanted to open the software center. Okay. The y is, well, the x is 0. And the y is 8. So your y-intercept is at that coordinate. Or you can just put that it was at 8. Okay? Is this a minimum or a maximum value? Well, because it goes up, it is a maximum value. And what is the maximum value? The maximum value is going to be the y-coordinate of the highest or lowest point of the parabola. We know from our vertex here that that is 9. So the maximum value is positive 9. And the x-intercept, so where does it cross the x-axis? Well, it crosses once over here and once over here. So those zeros, or the x-intercepts, are -2 and 4. Okay, next question. All right, last question asks us to, so we have the path of a killer whale in the water can be given by the function d equals t squared minus 8t plus 7, where d is the depth in meters, which is the y value, below the water surface, and t is the time in seconds, or the x value. So complete the following information below and sketch a graph. So, first thing is that our y-intercept, we get that from the question, right? So this part of the question here, the plus 7, that's our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is 7. Now to find the zeros, or the x-intercepts, what we have to do is take this and factor it, right? So I have d equals t squared minus 8t plus 7. If I factor this, I need two numbers that will multiply to give me 7 and add to give me -8. So those numbers are going to be -7 and -1. So factored form of this would look like t minus 7, so -7, and t minus 1. Okay, so remember that our x's are going to be the opposite of what are in the brackets here. Because if I say I solved this for t, it's like t minus 7 equals 0. And I rearrange it, I get t equals 7. Same thing over here. If I have t minus 1 equals 0, and I rearrange it, I get t equals 1. Or you can just take the opposite of what is in the bracket. So the opposite of what's in the bracket is +7, +1. So those are going to be my x-intercepts. So we can even write therefore x-intercepts are 7 and 1. I can plot those on here because I'm going to need them later anyway. So I can plot 1 And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The other one's going to be right over here. Okay, that's going to be helpful for when we have to graph it. The axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry is going to come in the center of the parabola. So how can I find the axis of symmetry? Well, that's going to be the point that's in between our two x-intercepts. Remember that parabolas are kind of like mirror images if you cut them down the center. So naturally, the middle of this parabola is going to be the dead center of these two x-intercepts. So to find that, I can take my two x-intercepts, which are 7 and 1, so 7 plus 1, and I can divide them by 2. That'll give me what's exactly in the center. So 7 plus 1 is 8, divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that means that my axis of symmetry is at positive 4. So we write our axis of symmetry like this: x equals 4. That's our axis of symmetry, right through the center of the parabola. Now the vertex is going to be our x coordinate here, but we need to figure out what the y coordinate of the vertex would be. So what I can do here is I can plug in my 4 for x and then solve, and that will tell me what my vertex is. So I might need more space here. We'll squeeze it in. Okay, so if I put my vertex in, I'm going to go back to the original question, which was t squared minus 8t plus 7. So my t is going to be x here, right? So if I say that x is 4, I'm going to put 4 squared minus 8 times 4 plus 7. Once we solve this, we'll have the answer to what our other coordinate of the vertex is. So 4 squared is 16. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. And then we have plus 7. So 16 minus 32 plus 7 is negative 9. So that means that our vertex, so therefore vertex is 4 and negative 9. Remember, this is my x and this was technically my y coordinate of my vertex. Okay? So how do I plot my vertex now? Well, let's find that. So the center of my parabola, it helps to kind of draw that line, and that'll help me when I'm plotting my vertex. So we said the x coordinate was going to be at 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. If I draw that dotted line through the center of the parabola, okay, so I know where 4 is, and the y coordinate of my parabola is 9, negative 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 right here. So the vertex is right here at this point. That's the center of the parabola. To draw the parabola, we have to draw this line that kind of scoops and connects the whole thing. Let's try with another color, I guess. Let's try with blue, so maybe it'll show up. So in order to draw this parabola, we're going to really smoothly kind of go down from that first point, meet down at the vertex, and then come back up to the next point, kind of as smoothly as we can. So in blue there, that is our parabola. And that was the second, or the last question from your show.